Hello, this is Dr. Michael Lalich, Medical Director and Chief of Staff for Kaiser Permanente San Diego. For more than 50 years, San Diegans have entrusted their health care to us. Our care and coverage connect to provide medical care tailored to each member. With our integrated network of primary and specialty care, we work together using evidence-based medicine to help deliver positive results. We believe in a healthy and engaged life with good beginnings and dignified endings. We believe that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness requires total health, including equal access to high-quality, affordable health care. At Kaiser Permanente, our cause is health. Our passion is service. We work to help make lives better. To learn more, visit kp.org/San Diego.
Good morning, I'm Lawrence K. Jackson. It's Monday, September 22nd. Experts have concerns over ICE's recruitment strategy. More on why next, but first, the headlines. It's out with the old and in with the new at the San Diego International Airport tonight. The new Terminal 1 will welcome its first flight at 8:55 this evening, and the last flight out of the old Terminal 1 will leave 15 minutes later. Airport spokeswoman Nicole Hall says passengers will find the new terminal much more spacious with lots of light, and she says some of what's in the current Terminal 1 will find new life in the new terminal, but other material won't be moved.
Some of those items will be donated to local nonprofits to help those organizations. The materials that are there in the existing Terminal 1 that are not moved or are not donated will be demolished.
The old Terminal 1 opened in 1967. Hall says it long ago outlived its useful life. Oceanside's City Council approved a resolution last week directing city staffers not to assist federal immigration and ICE efforts. As the UT reports, more than 60 people spoke on the issue, with many saying they, their relatives, or neighbors live in fear because of increased enforcement. A few who opposed the resolution said the city should not be involved. A single resolution was proposed featuring 9 separate points. 6 of those points were unanimously approved, with the understanding that the city does them already to some degree. These were things like protecting residents' sensitive information and limiting access to city spaces not open to the public. A proposal to allocate money from the city's budget to help those impacted by ICE failed. The 2 other points which faced opposition were dropped without a vote. San Diego's home market has been stagnant, to say the least. The median home price in July was $900,000 across the county. That's according to Adam Data Solutions. They combine sales of single-family homes, townhouses, and condos, and say the median price has remained unchanged for 5 months in a row. There were roughly 2,300 home sales throughout the county in July. That's the 3rd lowest number of homes sold for July in 37 years. From KPBS, you're listening to San Diego News Now. Stay with me for more of the local news you need.
Here in Southern California, we know all too well the devastation wildfires can cause. That's why our mission is to stop the next one before it starts. I'm Brian D'Agostino, leader of SDG&E's Wildfire and Climate Science team, and we've built one of the most advanced wildfire prevention programs in the country, with a team of world-class meteorologists using artificial intelligence and real-time weather data, all to help keep our communities safe. We're also building a stronger grid and using public safety power shutoff when necessary, because believe me, I've seen firsthand how unpredictable wildfires can be. But here at SDG&E, we face that uncertainty head on to help keep you safe. Learn more at sdge.com/wildfire safety.
Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement is in the midst of a massive hiring binge, with a goal of hiring 10,000 agents by the end of the year. Reporter Gustavo Solis spoke to experts who say the agency's recruitment strategy is filled with white nationalist messages and imagery.
Some of the images look like World War II recruiting posters. Uncle Sam asking you to defend the homeland. Others reference a glorified version of the past. White settlers traveling across the plains towards their manifest destiny as Native Americans retreat to the shadows. These are the words and images that the Department of Homeland Security is using to recruit thousands of new deportation officers. It's a historic expansion that will make ICE the largest federal law enforcement agency in the country. And experts who study extremist groups are flagging this rhetoric as dangerous.
Propaganda is an art. We need to look at it as such. It's a very powerful way of communicating. When it's done most effectively, it makes it hard to call it out as well.
Peter Simi is a sociologist at Chapman University who studied extremist groups and violence for more than 25 years. He says that part of the problem with this rhetoric is its ambiguity.
And there are people who maybe aren't well versed in terms of kind of the culture of far right extremism, who will see something like Uncle Sam and say, well, we've always used Uncle Sam as a symbol of the United States. And if it were just Uncle Sam, that would be one thing, but it's not just Uncle Sam.
The words and images can be interpreted through a white nationalist lens. For example, in that Manifest Destiny post, the one with the white settlers, the words heritage and homeland are capitalized in the caption.
There is two uses of H that are capitalized. In white supremacist circles, HH stands for Heil Hitler.
Also, the caption contains exactly 14 words.
Well, this is a very well-known slogan referred to as the 14-word statement.
White nationalists use messages with exactly 14 words as a hidden reference to a famous phrase from the 1980s. We must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children.
And it became one of the most central slogans among white supremacists. They reference it in everything from tattoos to t-shirts to emails. It's just ubiquitous among these folks.
ICE did not respond to questions from KPBS about their recruitment efforts. Simi says plausible deniability is a big part of extremist communications. The messages can be interpreted in a variety of ways, and whoever posted the message can just say people like Simi are overreacting, which means academics or members of the media cannot say for sure whether something is explicitly supporting extremist ideology.
Unless you were able to, find the person who created that post and they were to, admit that this was intentional. It's hard to ever really definitively say, which is, again, part of the point.
The current ICE expansion comes at a unique time for the agency, according to people who study law enforcement, like Allie Preston. She's a senior policy analyst at the Center for American Progress, a left-leaning think tank.
There is generally support for changes in the immigration system, but what's happening now is people are very much against the direction that this has come in, and it has really turned into a militarized, authoritarian form of policing, and I think that it really will damage this institution's ability to continue.
As part of her research, Preston regularly interviews retired federal and local police officers. And they're telling her that ICE's aggressive tactics are eroding community trust.
They see this as undermining that work of local law enforcement, who in many cases have had to work very hard to build trust in their communities.
Preston is worried that ICE already lowered some of its standards leading up to this recruitment effort. For example, the agency waived age restrictions that previously required applicants to be older than 21 or younger than 37 or 40, depending on the role. DHS officials also cut down ICE's 18-week training course to just 8 weeks. And they waived Spanish language requirements, vehicle pursuit courses, and other trainings.
I think in light of everything that's happening, it's really like a perfect storm of different sort of circumstances that are making policing more dangerous for communities and really undermining the role that they are supposed to be playing.
While ICE refused to comment for this story, the agency did announce that they have more than 150,000 applications. Meanwhile, experts like Simi and Preston say they plan to continue keeping an eye on ICE to see who they hire and how agents conduct themselves. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
Local pediatricians are raising concerns about new guidance for measles vaccines. Health reporter Heidi DeMarco says the change came from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's Vaccine Advisory Panel.
The Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices voted Thursday to stop recommending a combined shot for measles, mumps, rubella, and chickenpox for children under 4. They are now advised to get 2 vaccines instead. The panel cited a small risk of seizures in toddlers who get the combination shot. Pediatrician Maya Kumar says about 8 in 10,000 children are at risk.
If you compare the side effects of the vaccine to the side effects of the disease, it is immensely dwarfed by the side effects of the disease.
She says the change isn't based on any new science.
It's simply reinterpreting old data in the way that fits your perspective, and I think that that's dangerous.
Kumar worries it will lead to fewer kids finishing their vaccines.
But it'll be less convenient, and it's going to raise more questions, and this alone is going to reduce adherence.
Kumar says since the combined shot is no longer recommended for children under 4, it may not be covered by government insurance. This could lead to out-of-pocket costs for low-income families. Heidi DeMarco, KPBS News.
Scientists at the Sanford Stem Cell Institute at UC San Diego are in the midst of a research mission with test samples aboard the International Space Station. SciTech reporter Thomas Fudge tells what they've learned about cancer growth and aging.
The environment of space is an accelerant in some ways. It accelerates both aging and the development of cancer. Katrina Jameson is the director of UC San Diego's Sanford Stem Cell Institute. She and her research team have gathered data from 9 space missions to test the effects of being in space on stem cells. They found the cells age rapidly, dividing and mutating when they should be at rest.
If we reduce our stem cell component, we have bone marrow failure, and we can't make a normal immune system. We lose an immune system to fight infections, but we also lose an immune system that's capable of fighting cancer.
They have also carried cancer tumors to space. Cancer develops much more quickly in microgravity, and that allows scientists to study cancer growth in real time. Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.
All right, SDNN listeners, today I'm launching a brand new segment called The Pod Behind the Package. Package is simply news slang for a news story. The premise for this segment is simple. Identify standout pieces and stories from my colleagues that create or spark impact, inspiration, or some sense of feeling. Once per week, I'll bring in a reporter, anchor, or video journalist for a behind-the-scenes deeper dive and informal chat. Joining me this week from our investigations team was Scott Rod. Here's that combo. Scott, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. I want to thank you because this segment was inspired really by your euthanasia rates piece almost 2 months ago. I had just been at the company for about a week, so glad to get it launched. But take me all the way back to the beginning, before we got to the multiple part series, before we get into the most recent details. Talk to me about when you even first noticed this uptick in numbers.
Well, first off, I'm honored that the story inspired this. That's awesome. You know, this story, this series goes way back, months and months. We actually got a tip from someone that said, hey, look, we're concerned about what's going on at the county animal shelters. You should take a closer look. So myself and my colleague, Elena Alfaro, she's a fellow reporter here, we dug into the data and we said, yeah, there's something strange going on here. The euthanasia rate for dogs just skyrocketed in recent years. And so we said, what's going on here? So we dug into it and we found some really interesting trends and patterns and concerning, basically some concerning data. And we got a bunch of people to talk to us, certainly mostly on background, saying, hey, yeah, we're seeing some concerning things. And over time, we got more people to open up and eventually get some people on the record.
Initially, I believe it was supposed to be really just a 1-part series. It blossomed into a 2-part series. We just got a most recent part out of it as well. At what point when you sit down with those info data and you're looking at it, do you decide this is multiple parts, or is that something that, your editor is doing really?
A lot of it depends on what happens after that first part. So a lot of times you put out an investigation and what you're hoping for is it shakes other things loose. So we put out that first story and we had people come out to us and say, who we actually hadn't talked to yet, and said, hey, we want to talk. We got more to share with you. And that's how the second part came about. We had heard about this audit that was done years ago that found some serious issues at the shelter, and that audit was basically buried. And so once we got our hands on that audit, boom, that was part number 2. And then more people came out and said, hey, we got even more to to share with you. And that's what you hope for out of an investigation is once you put it out, you'll sort of reap the rewards of all that hard work.
So what can you share about when somebody comes forward and they say, hey, I've got something? How do you verify what they're saying? How do you know they're telling the truth? And then also, how are you protecting them?
Great question. In a nutshell, that part 3 was based on a recording of the assistant director at the Department of Animal Services, basically using crude language to describe dogs and essentially complaining that not enough euthanasias were happening. And so I had heard about this recording from multiple people, and it was almost sort of like this mythological creature that I knew was maybe out there, but I was kind of like, I'll believe it when I hear it. Eventually, I did get my hands on it. And when I did, from there, it's like, we got to make sure this is legit, make sure we authenticate this. So I reviewed this message in the format that it was sent. I listened to it, basically took all the steps to check all the boxes and say, yes, I verified this in person. I know it's real. Now we need to move ahead with, let's talk with people and see what they say about this and get the county's response.
Part 1, uptick. Part 2, audit. Part 3, voice message. Is there a possible part 4, part 5? Anything you can give us, Scott Rod, upcoming?
I might need to, leave this as a little bit of a cliffhanger, but we are looking at more reporting. For one, the county has said that they need to make improvements. They recognize this. They say we want to bring down our euthanasia rate. We want to bring down our turnover rate among staff. So we're looking at, well, what does that mean? What would the improvements be? How are you going to change policies in the department? So we're definitely taking a close look at that. So stay tuned for part 4, maybe part 5.
Absolutely. Scott Rod from our investigations team with a very, very strong piece of journalism. Our first highlight on the pod Behind the Package. Scott, I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
That is it for the podcast today. As always, you can find more San Diego news online at kpbs.org. I'm Lawrence K. Jackson. Thanks for listening and subscribing. By doing so, you're supporting public media, and I really want to thank you for that. Have a great day.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rachel Jans, Associate Curator of Modern and Contemporary Art at the San Diego Museum of Art. We're presenting a landmark exhibition of Eduardo Chillida, a visionary sculptor who transformed the way we think about form, space, and material. Eduardo Chillida Convergence is the most expansive U.S. presentation of the artist's work in nearly 50 years, bringing together monumental sculptures, delicate works on paper, and a virtual reality experience of his iconic Comb of the Wind installation on the Basque coast of Spain. Eduardo Chillida Convergence is on view now through February 8th, 2026 at the San Diego Museum of Art in Balboa Park. Learn more at sdmaart.org.